welcome to another episode of Green Focus podcast, hosted by me, Yaron. We're an IP management consultancy based in Israel, and on a major pivot to help sustain the world better by leveraging great IP. But part of the process is really trying to get inside the headspace of people very connected with the sustainability technology ecosystem here in Israel. Okay. So about that, I'm very happy to have Eli Cymbalista today on the show. Eli, you've got a rich background, both across corporate and government sectors. We're going to hear a bit about more about that. And you're at the moment Chief Executive Officer of ESIL, Environmental Sustainability Innovation Lab. That's such it sounds like the coolest job in the world, actually. Okay, it sounds like a very cool place to be. But just like going back, I can see that you've got, as I said, rich experience, being a consultant, being an analyst, being a business development manager, the corporate sector, the funding sector, the government sector. It's like really quite exciting. And then you've made your pivot to ESIL. Excuse me, that is a mosquito. I love mosquitoes, but they are part of the environment, but they just drive me crazy. So excuse that. Your latest pivot is to ESIL, and you're connected, ESIL, you can tell me a little bit more about it, but you're connected to a couple of like leading world kind of brands in terms of the space of development of products and markets. And so how about you starting off just telling me a bit about ESIL? If you want to tell me more about your backgrounds that's relevant for the conversation, that's also fine. Let's see what you guys are doing and what's your vision? What are you looking to do and make an impact?
Okay, so first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to join your podcast. And maybe I'll start with a very short introduction about myself, as I think it's probably relevant for what we are doing here today. So way back in 2007, that's where I actually started my professional career. I joined a small VC that was investing in the fields of clean technologies and the medical devices, and I was charged of the clean tech aspect, mostly Israeli-related startups. So that's when I started my my engagement with this ecosystem. Been there for a few years through the crash of 2008. Prior to that, I joined some kind of a high-tech company in the fields of financial performance management. And right after that, I went to the public sector. I was part of the Public Utilities Authority. That's the authority charge of setting the tariff and in charge of the electrical market in general. So that's another place where I got the better and deeper understanding of the energy sector here in Israel, and more from the regulation side. 2 years there, and then I went to the Public Companies Authority. That's a unit within the Department of Finance, the Ministry of Finance, that is essentially charged for the companies owned by the state of Israel. I was also nominated to be part of the board of directors of some of the biggest companies in Israel, the energy ones, or energy related utility ones. That was part of the board of the members of the water company, Mekorot, the gas company, and Tashan, the petroleum oil company. Besides that, I was also a business development manager for the Public Companies Authority. And that's where I formed a project, a huge project of starting and trying to get government-owned companies to engage with the startup community and ecosystem. The truth of the matter is that the idea and I was very keen about it was because of my experience in this in my previous job as part of this VC that I was part of way back in 2007. So we had a very interesting startup in the fields of what we call the smart grid, utilizing the energy, the electricity sector. And this was a very interesting startup that we thought that the IEC, Israel Electricity Company, would be interested in. So as you know, Israel is a very small ecosystem. It's very easy to get to anybody you want and connect. So it didn't take us a long time to find ourselves sitting in the meetings room of IEC together with the CTO of the company and his entire people or group of people to evaluate the startup. And they asked all these questions, and the entrepreneur answered all these answers, and they got convinced that this is a very interesting thing to do. And so when the meeting ends, seems to be very successful. So I asked them, okay, what's next? How do we get to do a pilot within the IEC? And everybody still looked at each other, and they said the truth of the matter is this might be a problem. We don't really have the right mechanism. In order to do this, you have to be at a certain stage, you have to be with a certain amount of backing financially. This is some kind of a contract. We are owned by the state of Israel. We can't just do whatever we want with any startup. We have to think to see how exactly we form this kind of relationship. And at the same time, I managed to make relations with a small utility in the west of the United States called San Diego Gas and Electric, which is probably at least a few times bigger than IEC in terms of the amount of households that as clients. And they said, come here and we want to evaluate the startup as well. So we flew to the US, they asked the same questions, we answered the same answer, but it ended up by the fact that they managed to give us a backyard place to play with this initiative, because they had the facilities, they had the mechanism for doing engagements with startups. And I said to myself, that's unbelievable that I have to go all the way to the other end of the world in order to test an Israeli startup and have these facilities right here in Israel. And that stayed in the back of my mind. So eventually when I became part of the Public Utilities Authority and I had this opportunity to, as a business development manager there, to conduct some kind of a project that would be a cross project for all utilities, for all governmental companies. I said that innovation within the governmental companies, enabling them and enabling the startups to conduct pilots, etc., would be something that I would be happy to leave behind me when I leave this place. And that's exactly what happened. So I, as part of this project, I came out with a call to the governmental companies to start forming innovation mechanisms and appointing innovation managers and building strategies for innovation and for doing all kinds of engagements with startups, etc. I passed the government decision that enabled the governmental companies to invest directly in startups, something they weren't allowed to do before, trying to bring them closer to the real business, so the way business world acts today. I had another program that I set together with the IIA, Innovation Authority, Israel Innovation Authority, for supporting startups and pilots that will be within these government-owned companies, etc. So that's what I've been doing there for a few years, aside to being a board member within these companies I said. That I mentioned before. And the truth of the matter is that also, as being a board member, it helped me encourage these specific companies that I was a board member to be the first ones to adopt the decision, the government decision that I passed, and forming these new innovation departments within them. After I think almost 6 years, I left government owned the company's authority to become the CEO of ESIL. So what's ESIL? ESIL is
let me ask a question or two before you get into the current stuff, right? So one question I had during the discussion was that when you were doing like tariff development and working out the economics of the electric system in Israel, and I'm asking myself, what's there to do there? Because we're still left with a monopoly, okay? At the end of the day, we've got one electric company, they're ruling the environment. Now we've got all these promises for the future when we'll be able to open up the market and do all types of things. But like, what exactly at that juncture was your challenge, and what was your role in terms of playing with all these kind of economic tariff questions so many years before we were talking about breaking down the monopoly?
That's a great question. At the end of the day, everybody has incentives, okay? And it's all a question of priorities. You only, also in a monopoly, you might have to cause different incentives. If in the open market, in the competitive market, the incentive is to be the competitive and getting advantage over your competitors. So in a monopoly market, you might need to create other incentives in order to enable the monopoly to act and work at the same way you would like them to look at the competitive market. And since these monopolies are highly regulated, so you could use the regulator in order to give them the right incentive. I'll go all the way to the most basic incentive. The way these government-owned companies give the bonuses to the management, okay, also has to be approved by the regulator. So I could tell them, if you want to give bonuses to your managers, if you want to get your yearly bonus, you have to show me some kind of progress in developing this plan of innovation, or nominating an innovation manager and showing me the innovation plan, etc. So there are many ways to give incentives to people, to organizations, to corporates, to do all kinds of things you want them to do. These monopolies are, as I said, are regulated, and it is a challenge. I'm not saying it's not, because you don't have the competitive market way of helping them to advance, but there are other ways to give them the right incentive. Besides the fact that I've got to admit that the board of the the board of directors of these companies are people who do it mainly volunteering basis, and they come from the private sector. Most of them come from the private sector and from other business related organizations, and they know how to be more business oriented. And when they see these kinds of decisions and these kinds of incentives by or that the overall outreach and outlook of the government-owned authority, company's authority is looking at, so they understand, and they try to push the management to do the same. So it's a combination. It's the combination of trying to get everybody on board. By the way, one of the challenges is actually not the company itself, but other regulators who are not business oriented. And now to go and convince the utilities authority, the electricity authority, to set within the tariff a few more cents in order to give this incentive to nominate an innovation manager, when they don't see the exact outcome of it within the very early, short term. That's something that might be even more challenging than than convincing the company itself, because at the end of the day, the income of the electricity company comes from its tariff, and they're not in charge of setting the tariff. So if I have to tell them to now nominate a new manager, and I give them the incentive to do it, they also have to say, okay, where am I going to pay them from? Okay, so I need the tariff to be also to adopt also this methodology of yours. So I had to go also to the utilities authority, and since I know exactly how they think, I know how to talk to them, and I managed to convince them as well. But it was easier maybe with the utilities authority, the electricity authority, but it wasn't easy with the water authority, for instance, because their relationship with Makot is a bit different than the relationship, etc., etc. There's a lot of things here we could talk about.
Okay, so this emphasizes exactly why I was excited to speak to you, because there's this whole complexity behind the scenes. One thing I learned from your response previously was that, be there a large monopoly like electric company in the scene, it doesn't mean it's the end of all the potential. You can actually work with them in really concentrated ways to make change. It reminds me actually it reminds me a little bit when quite a few years ago, I was the IP manager for Med Communications, an internet over communication lines technology. And I just remember the funny feeling that once after a bit of time, I said to the guys, how is XYZ working? And they said, come onto the roof. So I walk into the roof over there, and they actually had this whole big setup on the roof because they especially chose that building because there was a roof which was near a supply line of electricity, and they were just doing experiments. They were like, it was like a great fun zone of experimentation, and the electric company didn't seem to mind. They were like kind of just saying, okay, you want to work with us. Obviously, they knew that if internet would go over power lines, it would be a fantastic bonus for them. So maybe that was why. But it's just fascinating to work with these big corporates and work out the dynamics. I mean, as you mentioned before, almost, there's the water authority, right? There's the transportation ministry. So transportation ministry, on the one hand, earn massive tax money from buying new cars and taxes. And every new electric vehicle goes on the road, they've got huge taxes to gain. And they want to just push more vehicles into the market. And then you've got the environmental ministry wanting to minimize the vehicles because it's causing chaos. And then you've got the electric company who actually want to go electric because obviously your car that's being charged is massively boosting their output. So that's why I need guys like you there. And I'd love to just say, welcome, you're on the team, man. So like, you're on the right side. So anyway, it's just good to hear this, but I want to learn more about it. Just one more point before carrying on. I haven't even got to ESIL yet. It's just like let's go straight to ESIL, I think, actually, because we're going to just take up too much time on the other questions. I'll try to get to them. So you finally get to ESIL, and you've gone through all this experience. What is ESIL doing that's trying to advance this program even further in your unique way?
So then the ESIL is just like any other incubator, I would say. Okay, we support and finance the startups at the pretty much early stage of development. When I'm talking about early stage, I'm talking mainly about the stage of the technology, technological development. That's where we are very more focused. So not necessarily it would be early stage in terms of financing, but it would be early stage in terms of technological development. And as you probably know, that as opposed to other markets as cyber, fintech, etc., which the cycles could be much faster within the energy and environmental sustainability ecosystem, which we call more deep technologies. The cycles could be a little bit longer because we are talking about developments to do with physics, chemistry, biology, etc. So developments take quite a long time and need to allocate a lot of funds. We, with our partners, which I didn't even mention their names yet, we claim that we could help startups emerge and develop their technology in a faster way, getting closer to the market with the support that we give them. Again, also financially, but mostly with our experts and expertise within the specific fields that we act in and that these startups we try to attract. So ESIL is actually a partnership that was founded by three partners. You have Bazan from Israel, which we might talk about a little bit more later. That's the Israeli largest petrochemical group. You have EDF from France, with its subsidiary EDF Renewables, that also has a branch in Israel, which is the largest industry-scale PV plant in Israel with almost 500 megawatt under management. And the third company, which is less known here in Israel, but it's a large corporate from the UK, and it has 10 times as much more employees than Bazan, for instance, is called Johnson Matthey. Johnson Matthey is a UK-based corporate. The most known product, there was sustainability technologies in general to deal with different pollutions, etc. It's a chemistry group. The main product is the catalytic converter for vehicles. one third of one out of every 3 cars in the world has their converter. So they're like the biggest supplier of converters of cattle converters. They are also a player in the field of hydrogen production. Not necessarily green hydrogen, which is a new thing, but they're also previously the blue and gray hydrogen. They provide the technologies to create hydrogen. They'll play fuel cells, battery materials, etc. 1,700 PhDs and researchers, R&D people in the UK, and they're a very, very good partner of ours. So what we do is we try to attract startups within the field of general, clean energy, anything that has to do to relate with the core business of any one of these three companies. Core business in terms of the future, of course. I'm not talking about the refinery and the business of refining for Bazan, but I'm talking about more the clean and green future that they vision as well. And we partner with startups, helping them, supporting them both with funds and with expertise, facilities to conduct pilots, etc. This entire partnership with ESIL is also supported by the IAA itself. The startups that both ESIL itself and the startups that join ESIL are supported also by the IAA, Israel Innovation Authority. The general program of joining ESIL is a 1-year program for 1 million shekels of funds, and on top of these 1 million shekels that the startup gets, we also give them all the surrounding support with the expertise, mentoring, facilities for conducting pilots, etc. There's an option for a second year for an additional 1 million shekels in order to keep the development. And as I said, our focus is on getting the startup at a very specific TRL, for instance, 2 to 3, and helping it within 1 year move to TRL 4, 5, or 6. And bring him to a better place that when he fundraises next round, he already has a technology that he could demonstrate on a high level, on a scale level. And we keep supporting these startups even after they, of course, leave ESIL. See ourselves as very close partners to these startups. We are not a financial investor, we are a strategic investor, very, very hands-on the startups that join us. So far, we've invested in 5 different startups. This is over a period of, I would say, less than 2 years. I mean, we started operating exactly 2 years from now ago. Sorry, but it took us almost a year until we started actually bringing in startups. So the first investments were done exactly a year ago, June 2021. The first 2 investments, and since then we joined 3 more joined our portfolio, and we have now in our pipeline a few more very interesting startups. If I need to speak about the motivation of the different partners of the ESIL, so there was quite a small difference between them. All of them are very, very large corporates that at the end of the day want to be with some kind of a competitive edge in the market that they're operating at, but there was still some kind of nuances and differences in the motivation. For instance, Bazan, you would probably ask what would a refinery that mostly deals
Mostly
with
make fossil fuels.
Exactly, fossil
Yes.
fuels. What do they have to do with the clean energy? So the answer is pretty obvious, I would say, because they understand that, notwithstanding their own business, it's only a question of time until the use of fossil fuels will decline. So if they want to be alive business-wise, they have to think about the future. And they actually came out with a new strategy last year, talking about being the biggest player of hydrogen here in Israel. So when people ask me about Bazan, how does Bazan support such kind of activities if it's not just greenwash, etc. So the truth of the matter is that of course it's not greenwash. I mean, if they want to be relevant 5 and 10 years from now, they have to find the other path to use their assets in a more clean and green way. Besides the fact that it doesn't say anywhere in their goals and vision that they're supposed to pollute as many pollutions as possible. That's not their goal. Their goal is to take crude oil and make all kinds of products out of it. If they could do it in a cleaner, in a more environmental friendly way, they would be happy to do so. So the idea is that they don't have any goal for polluting.
So Eli, I'm gonna have to challenge you over here. Okay, not a serious challenge, just a mini challenge. But one of my questions exactly in going forward was, what's it like working with Bazan Group as in the moral sense? Like you're talking about companies that have had a lot of part in creating fossil fuels and still do today. Now, it's not unique that Bazan wanted to go over to the other side and start investing in new green tech ventures. I think most electric companies are doing that because that's where they see the future. But you're going to come to a certain critical path where you're going to make painful decisions and you're going to give up on readily available kind of revenue streams in order to stream investments and money in terms of for future development, for values in the direction of values as opposed to just economic gains. And so I think at the end of the day, it's going to come up to, it's going to flag every company and say, how much are you really caring about this? As you said, not just greenwashing. Are you really, have you put people in there? Are you employing people? Are you putting in board members who really are concerned with the world and not just with their financial revenues? And this, so let me just give you a story. I mean, I know when I started moving into the field, I had this kind of dizziness, who are we going to work with? There's this ugliness that's built into the current system of doom and destruction, so to speak. And it took me a lot of processing to kind of start getting on top of this thing and saying, no, you see, we're living in, let's be slightly realistic, all right? There are big players with big pockets and with big resources. And we got to, as a mission, bring the old players on board with the new mission. We can't just go and just, give musal and give, punishment all the time and sanctions. We've got to bring people on board. And so the big companies, and the bigger they are, they need to be brought on board. And I'm hoping that part of what you've done over the years, what I'm trying to do now is educationally and conscious-wise to bring more people to the table, to bring, all the players together in the room, to sit around the table in a cultured way, to kind of come up with better strategies. Anyway, so the seriousness of such entities will be seen over the time. Anyway, that was just me venting to some degree and wondering and quite curious to see how these lines are going to play out. But I truly respect that. I think everyone needs to be brought to the table with these challenges and let them put their best brains forward and their best resources forward to try and make it work better. Okay, in terms of the futuristic side. I wanted to throw out one other kind of personal take on this thing. You mentioned in your response previously, we got a different set of challenges in the green tech sector. We got these kind of long-term changes we're trying to make. We got huge, massive systems with their own energies, which we need to reach. We need to change directions. We need to change infrastructure. These are big, long-term projects. Me personally, I just turned 50, a few weeks ago. And part of my midlife crisis was trying to work out, okay, what now, right? I'm not retiring. I'm looking to build a whole new thing. And when I think about my kind of next part of my career, it kind of aligns with the 2050 vision of zero carbon. It's like by the time I'm kind of starting to slow down a bit, or whatever it's going to mean, the world should be hopefully pretty much at zero carbon if we believe all the theories and what we're trying to achieve in this lobby. So it got me thinking, what can I do to build a career that's going to be, as I say, it's long-term thinking. I'm talking about 20 years or so of pushing the world in a certain direction, taking on the giants, changing our environment as we know it, and changing our infrastructure as we know it. These are big challenges. So when I get down to your question, when you take a little startup, now this is my scenario. Okay, I know we're speaking for long now. Scenario, let me give you a scenario instead of throwing you little questions. A startup comes to me today, and it happens because I do patents and IP. They come and they say, I've got an invention. Some of them come with a high-tech invention, some of them with a low-tech invention. But the invention has got to be something that wants to change the world in a positive, sustainable kind of way. Now, they come to me and they say, I've got a product. I've got a possible low-tech line of take it to market and quickly see if this thing's needed, it will work and people want it. Or I've got a high-tech version and making it smart and making it advanced and making it big data and giving it AI. And I turn to you, Eli, and I say, Eli, give me some guidance for these people out there. This startup, should they go for the short thing, the long thing? Should they try and do a hybrid of short and long? Where is the funding available? For what type of project? What is the time horizon they have to look at? What homework should they do before they come to someone like you guys with your partners, or the Horizon or the the authorities, and say, help me, where do I start? I want to sincerely change the world. I want to make it greener and better and cleaner. Eli, where do I start?
Okay, so you started with one thing and you ended up with a different thing.
Correct. You're listening.
Yes. So I'll just want to say a few words about what you said before. There's a very deep assumption in what you said before, that there was some kind of a conflict between what's the right thing to do, what's the good thing to do, and what's the revenue thing to do. Okay, and I think we are not in that conflict anymore, because the idea today is that, as opposed to the past, where you had all these organizations that told you that in order for you to be able to save the world, in order to have a better planet, to live at, you need to reduce your quality of life. For instance, by not eating meat, or by not using public transportation, or not your own car and public transportation, you had to sacrifice something. Okay, and that was the way they told you that you would be able to help and make this world more sustainable. So today, the world goes to a place where we try to offer solutions that will help you keep the same quality of life using technology, and still saving the world and being sustainable, etc., etc., etc. So we are trying to break this conflict. Okay, and once you break the conflict, you won't have the problem anymore, because it will all be with the same. Everybody will have the same interest. It will all go to the same place. I have a technological development that enables me to both save the world and get high profits and revenues, etc. Bazan isn't the first company to start this trend, okay, of becoming green. Okay, they are joining the trend, and they see how it goes along with being profitable, revenues, etc., etc. If you talk to me psychologically, and I go to the private person that works within Bazan, they will all tell me that they would be very, very happy to support and to be part of a better world. They think, like you and like me, that we need to go to a better and a greener world. Okay, but that doesn't mean that means that we have to stop in one day all the refineries and stop producing plastic and stop paving roads with the materials that are being made out of oil, etc. These things will be done step by step, and they would be very happy to be part of it. And you could see it by coming along to Bazan and seeing all these different pilots that are being done with startups, knowing that some of them won't last. Okay, they put a lot of efforts and a lot of funds into this thing. They do it in a risk management way, like any other kind of business. And of course, they have to take into account their own financial status, etc. Because none organization or corporate won't be able to last for too long if it doesn't take into account its costs and income. Okay, so that's being done like any other kind of organization. But if I speak to the personal people who lead Bazan, they are all very, and some of them are very passionate, okay, for this thing, for becoming more green and a cleaner, and helping the environment to become a cleaner place, despite the fact that the truth of the matter is that if you think about it, the one who has the most impact on polluting the world are probably the ones that will have the most impact in stopping the pollution. So might as well have them join the game, becoming part of the players who want to become greener and cleaner, and then the impact will be even higher than those who are starting now with a startup and nobody knows them, or it's harder for them to penetrate the market, etc. So from that point of view, I could tell the startups that join me, listen, I already have 2 legs or 3 legs within these markets. Come join me in. I'll help you get to the market faster. I'll avoid all kinds of mistakes that you might be doing in the development, because I have these industries that will be supporting you and telling you and giving their advice about all kinds of things that you might not be aware of, because you are very focused on on developing your new technology. So I think this partnership could be, it's a win-win for everybody. The partners get exposed to new interesting technology, and of course the startups get to the market much faster than they would be getting to it without the support of our partners. And I think that if we just look at the use cases of the startups that already joined us, and the 1 or 2 that already that are already past a few months within the ESIL system and program, you could already see the high results and successful of these startups.
That's great, Eli. I just want to say thank you. The point that you made is really, really important, that at the source of the most pollution is the source of the most saving. And it's almost like a call, a call to prayer of like, everybody come and find all these carbon polluters and let's fix it, because they are the ones who are doing the most damage. They could do the most saving. And I take that point strongly. It's interesting, I was just listening to a podcast the other day. It was going into the history of some radical environmental organizations in the 70s in America who went on a campaign to blow up physically fossil producers, factories, slaughterhouses, things that were on the other side, right, on the dark side. And they became the first, what was known as environmental terrorists, okay? That was the authorities called them, because they were quite radical in their ways. They weren't trying to kill people. They weren't trying to do people terrorism, but they were trying to do environmental saving by whatever. And the fact is that at the end of the day, the impact on that, they obviously caused an outcry, and they stopped a lot of projects, but they wasted massive resources as well. They burnt to the ground massive resources, and they caused huge anti-right feelings, which, I mean, in certain towns that were trying to do certain things, they destroyed the livelihood of the town. So I'm just throwing it out as an example where we sometimes want to be radical, and we sometimes love the idea of being radical, but I think what I'm hearing in your approach is we need balance. We need some longevity. We need some long-term thinking. And we know that we can't, and we saw it now with Ukraine, for example, how everyone was like, hey, Europe, throw away your refineries. It's so old-fashioned. And suddenly life changed in a day. And let's try to work out how we're going to survive next winter. It's by bringing refineries back online and getting back our nuclear plants. So anyway, I take your point. I think it's important, but it kind of goes back to the Jewish value of repentance, right? Do people have an opportunity to repent if they've made mistakes or if they've done things that are not great? And there's a fundamental kind of positive belief that people can do that. In our context, companies can do that. Companies have done things, whether with great intentions or bad intentions, whether they've only they cared about profits or anything else, they did those things. And now we've got to sincerely see if we can get back and do the right stuff. So this is the challenge of our time. Listen, I want to start going the last couple of questions, because I could speak to you for a long time, but respecting your time and mine, we have to try cut it quite soon. If you had to give a short answer to my previous scenario of the startup who comes to you and says, help me, where do I start, long-term, short-term, high-tech, low-tech? What is your feeling for what they should do right now in this current marketplace and this current funding marketplace?
So the answer to your question, it could vary between different startups and different technologies too. But I would say in general that partnering, since this is a highly regulated market, and as I said, the cycles could be pretty long. Partnering with the right partners from the beginning could be very, 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 very important. And that's on one hand, and on the other side, I would say that the product market fit. That's another thing that you should be aware of as a startup, because we don't even know yet, I think, all the models and business models for some of these developments, because I think the economy would be changing accordingly. For instance, all this carbon based market, yes, and circular economy, these are things that will cause different business models and different trends as well. So being able to, I spoke before about giving the right incentive to corporates and to people, okay? So that at the end of the day, even a new technology or new development needs to be pointing the right, either the right pain or the right incentive of either a person or corporate. And you manage to address that specific pain or alternatively the incentive, it would be much easier for you to penetrate the market with your new technology. So that's like a very, very general, I would say, an advice.
Okay, I agree it was an unfair question, so I'll let you get away with that. Okay. One or two things in closing. When you look at Israeli green climate tech companies, how do you feel they are comparing on a global scale to entrepreneurs in Scandinavia, all over the world, basically, where we're seeing lots of action, and Israel's been quite late to the table?
That's also a complicated thing to answer, because there was, like I said, your question now involves not only ability to adapt new technologies, but also it's a question of culture. And the culture is a bit, I would say, is a bit different here than in other places. The awareness here, I think, in Israel to the green space is a little bit behind other places in the world. It's not due to the fact that we are very different as humans. It's because of the I think geopolitical environment that we live at, a little bit to do with the pyramid of Maslow. We are in a lower part there because we have to still take care, and our security is a bit different. Sorry. So I would say that would be the main reason. But still, we are on the way going there. On the other hand, we are very, very innovative and very, very highly close to adapting new technologies. So I think there was a good potential here, and I could see it with my other two partners, which I didn't even talk about, EDF and Justin Matthey, being global players and still believe in the Israeli market and the Israeli ecosystem ability to come out with new ideas to solve these climate worldwide crisis challenges. So combining these things together, I think the opportunity here is very, 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 very high. In partners like from the kind of EDF and Justin Matthey are the right entities to partner with in order to be able and see what's going on there in the world, and being able to get closer the technology to the world and the world to the Israeli innovation ecosystem.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that I should actually challenge you with a couple of amazing clients who've got great technologies, and challenge you and see if you and your partners can just pull it together. Is that the challenge that I'm hearing?
Well, the truth of the matter is that the main challenge on my day-to-day basis would be trying to combine between different, I would say, organizational cultures, which are different between the three partners. In which within each one of these corporates, you have to know exactly how to deal in the right way in order to get the cooperation of the specific person you need when helping a specific a startup, because that's my main focus. When I tell a startup that joins me that will support him, I actually mean it. I don't just give him the name of EDF, Bazan, or Josamati. I actually give him people from these and experts from these corporates that will help him. And these people are very busy people that I have to take them out from their day-to-day operational role and try to get them to support a startup. That would be my main challenge if you ask me, trying to get to each one of them within each one of these corporate. I think with pretty high success so far, but this question would, I think, should be addressed to the startups themselves and ask them how much are they happy and with this collaboration with TSAL.
Okay, great. I've got so many questions, but I'm just going to have to end it. And I'm going to have to end it with one final unfair question. And that is that if I happen to be the owner of the genie in the bottle, and I could give you 3 wishes of how you think you could make the most impact and make the world a much better place for your grandchildren, give me 3 if you can. 3 wishes that you would want to wave that wand, to call that genie and change some things in a big way.
Okay, so there could be quite a few of them. First of all, I would be more than happy that things would move much faster than they move today in all aspects, okay? The technological development, if we could do it in a much higher pace than what it's being done today, I would be very happy, because this way we could bring the solutions much faster to the market. If I could get the cooperation of both customers and suppliers of new technologies to adopt the technologies, that would be very helpful as well. So anything we could do much faster in order to make our vision become reality, okay? And everything on the way, that would be something I would be very happy if that could happen. Of course, that might be a problem, to get that for different reasons. And another thing is to put aside all the old school assumptions regarding the different developments that are being done, to come very clean and clear about new developments that are being done. It could be open-minded about them, could help us adopt some very interesting new solutions and make this world become really a much better place to live at. If I have to end with the biggest wish I would ask Jimmy to do, is being able to to make all the energy in the world being clean energy by using the sunlight, in a nutshell, and just doing like this and having all the energy and everything, all the resources in the world being generated on clean energy. That would be great.
Okay, well, listen, Eli, I share this vision and this hope and this optimism, because I really am in the game of, we can transform this place with great technology and with great willingness, and a good willingness to change things in a sincere way. And I think there are a lot of people who are trying to do that, and there are a lot of good minds who are trying to do that. And I really share your optimism. I think we're going to be looking back when we, in 20 years' time, and we're actually going to, wow, we did it, man, we did it. So
yes.
I want to thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure chatting and conversing on this issue. There's so much more we could talk about, but we've got to end it because we all got to go on with our work. And so that's all. I'm wishing you all the best, and continue with a new good season in ESIP, and bring in new client companies, new portfolio companies, and working with your partners in constructive and good ways. I'm hoping we'll be able to cooperate on many levels as well, and we'll continue the conversation.
Sure.
So all the best. Thank you so much. And we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you very much, Yaron. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity. Very, very interesting, and it was great talking to you about all these things. And yes, sure, if you want to do this again, I'll be very happy to.